So I'm about 230 pounds wet. This is a look at how to get going in light winds as a heavy person using the newly released Gong Cruzader Downwind board. This is the 711 version. So basically this with a Leviathan pumping foil, the 1550, and an 8-meter strike. The goal, we don't get heavy winds around here, so the goal is to try to get up and going in light winds. So they released it and shipped it pretty quickly. Today's, I don't know, like the 11th, and I think it was released on the 5th of July. So we're going to cut into it. I don't know about anybody else, but I always use the least amount of sharpness to get these boxes open. The screwdriver does the job just nice. And there she is, and looks like it comes with a pump and a patch kit. So there's one more pump for the collection. Travel bag is very similar to the Fanatic. It's got rollers and backpack straps. So we'll go ahead and pull it out. So there's a fair amount of room in there. For folding, they're just folding it around basically the plate, the mast plate. Bring the back in, and then bring the front in, and then fold it over again. Let's take a look at this mast plate first off. I'd say it's really similar to the Fanatic, but it's thicker, it's beefier than the Fanatic. I think it's, yeah, like I said, it's thicker. It's a lot more depth in the channel than on the Fanatic. Also an opportunity to try out this new Airbank 20 PSI pump that I got. I had another one that's about twice as big and only goes to 16. So got to use this yesterday and it did a great job of taking it up to 20. We'll see how long this takes to inflate. The thing blowing up, I'm bringing out my Fanatic so I can compare it. Also, I'm going to bring out the bag. All told, this thing took just a little bit over 5 minutes to inflate all the way up to 20 PSI. That was pretty decent. Overall, the board is about 2 feet longer, but it's so much narrower. If you look at these two shapes. And one of the challenges is when you're going to pump, on the Fanatic, and I think all these boards, you've got this just giant surface area that you're just trying to plow through the water. And for especially a heavy guy, you're trying to get that thing pumping and going without breaking the flow over the foil. Where the idea with this Hope is that this kind of nice shape is it's going to be almost like a kayak, where you're going to be able to spear through the water a lot more and get that foil speed up. And not break that, especially for a heavy guy. You know, we just need to get that foil moving. So that'll be the next thing, is when we get out on the water with it. This is also a key concern. Can I fit it in the Prius sail car? And yes, I can. Awesome. Don't have to deflate it. I'm gonna go ahead and mount up the Sab foil onto this and then look for the kind of initial mast position. So I really like this Kraken base. Wasn't sure if I would or not. Pop this guy off. I like these wrenches too. They move really quickly. One thing I haven't been too excited about is the idea of losing this foil. If somehow the mast plate came loose on this guy, that would really suck. So I've got it tied off to the board. See right here, tied off, runaway strap. I'd like to be able to use these on the bolts. But one thing I wanted to show is how much narrower, how shallow this is, this mast track, compared to the other one. Let me show that real quick. This is what I'm talking about with the thickness of the mast track on the Fanatic. The other thing is it goes right up against the bladder of the board, so I'm not too keen on that. I think the Nash actually is a much better design than this. So I'm going to compare it to the Gong. Well, you can see how much deeper it is, where this one was coming up high enough on the Fanatic to mount the mast track. This track is so much deeper that we don't even have a head coming up. So definitely the longer bolt that we'll look for I'll check out what we've got. Actually, the Sab Foil came with longer bolts. I had to get shorter ones to use on the Fanatic. There are a couple interesting things here. This guy's pretty cool in that they don't want you to bust through the bottom of their board. But it comes with the M6 hardware, so it's not so great for the Sab Foil. I'm going to show that my bolts are too long, and that's one thing I think everybody needs to look at when they're putting their mast together. So right now I have my M8 bolt, and it's touching the bottom, but we still have a gap there. So if you start to tighten it down, you're going to make an indentation into the bladder, which is not good at all. You want to have that. Enough threads in the mount, but not so much that the bolt goes out through the bottom. So I have to go down to the hardware store and get the size M8 that comes between these two. I had the M35s and the M25s. Hopefully the M30s are going to do the job here. Not sure if you can see this, but the way I'm telling whether or not it's, see it wiggles there, so the bolt is not hitting. So I think we're going to be in good shape with that. Now I'll get into building up the mast. I like this Kraken quick system. Talked about that in another video. You can put the mast on very quickly. And this goes in, tightens up nicely. It's a color coded. This is my M8. I use it all the time. 10 is only for the mast, and then the 4 is so much smaller than the 10 that it's pretty easy to tell what it is. 4 is only used for the stabilizer. Got my 8 down here. I like these because they have the weight in and you can spin them pretty quickly. And I keep the bolts in there so I know which one goes with which one. So I've got the 663 on here. I have the 753. There's some issues with the radius not matching up the Leviathan wing. I need to talk to the Sab Foil about that. So I've got the fuselage on. I've got one long, 2 short ones on the outside and a long one in the middle. There's the long one, there's the shorter one. Grab this beast. So this is really gonna be the key to getting going. With my other board, I can do it in about 8 on our winds if they're constant or pretty consistent. But if there's any chop at all, I run into problems. The foil itself, this foil itself, will start to lift me out of the water board speed of about 6 miles an hour. So if I can get this thing going 6 miles an hour, I have a chance of getting up on foil. And I think I have a better chance than I did before. I got 2 stabilizers, a 480 and a 380. 380 seemed a little loose. This fuselage seems a little short, so getting used to it. That's why I got the longer fuselage, was to see whether or not that would be an improvement on stability at speed. And of course, I love watching someone put their gear together. While they fast forward this part of it. Here we go. And so the whole purpose of this is I want to get a kind of a rough idea of where the mast should be. Back up a little bit. So common sayings is try to put that about in the middle and see where it sits. It's actually pretty darn good. Forward to aft. And the center of effort. Geez, I think I'm just going to lock it down there and see how we get. And it may be a little front heavy, but let's see. Give that a shot. Now that I know where I want to put it, I'm going to go ahead and tighten these down so they don't move around on me. I'm going to show this Kraken as it comes apart, and you'll see how fast that is. So it's got a tapered bolt in it. You have to do some adjustment to get the mast to get this taper just right so that it snugs it in and pulls it down, because this taper is going to be what holds it in place. I'm going to go ahead and pull this out and take a look from the top. Okay, so there's adjustments. There's a lot of little washers right in here. And what ends up happening is when this taper, I'll do it from this side, when this taper comes up against it, it's going to snug it down. And so these are really thin washers, so you can get it to a point where it's snug down, but it's not bottomed out. Let's get another look at this brass. It's kind of got an angled bevel on it to go up and over. So that is pretty darn slick. And then simply when you're not using it, this is what it looks like as it goes through. I just store it in there when I'm not using it. There you have it, the Gong Hipe Cruzader. It's the Downwind inflatable, 7 feet 11 inches with a Leviathan Sab Foil 1550, and I'll be using the 8 meter on it, so I'll give you some updates on how that's going as soon as I get it out on the water. Can't wait to get out there.